Welcome to week 10 of the LL Football Roundtable, sponsored by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. I am John Walk, sports reporter with LNP Lancaster Online, along with colleagues Jeff Reinhart and Mike Gross. Gentlemen, 1 week left in the regular season, playoff runs, section title implications. It's all on the line this Friday. We have a lot to get to, but as always, how we start the show, we go out to a practice, and this week Jeff, anyway, was out in Denver talking to the Cocalico Eagles. Big Section 2 game coming up with them going to rival Mannheim Central. The Eagles have already clinched a share of the Section 2 crown, could win it outright if they're able to top the Barons this Friday. So Jeff thought it noteworthy to go out to Cocalico. So we'll do that first, and then we'll come back and we'll break down all of the 12 Week 10 games and what is the final Friday of the regular season. So Jeff, what's going on with the Eagles?
Second trip to Cocalico in 2 weeks. Happy to report we did not jinx Anthony Barraza last week. How about it? 330 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, including another 80-yarder last week and a win over Warwick. I have been jinxing everybody this year with these show visits and feature visits. So it was nice to see Barraza have a big night and not jinx anybody. So anyway, as mentioned, John, huge game for Cocalico here. Clinched a share. They'd like to get it outright. They haven't had an outright crown in a little while, and they got to go play the Barons in the juiciest rivalry in Lancaster County. Always a fun game when those two get together. So dropped by Cocalico, talked to Coach Brian Stroll, talked to the quarterback, Blake, today, and talked to Luke Angstad, who's having a really good year at linebacker. Talked win over Warwick, playing with Barraza in the season he's having, and prepping for Mannheim Central in what should be a really good showdown game over in Mannheim on Friday. So Tyler and I were over there. Let's take a look at those interviews.
Great win over Warwick. Let's start there, and it gets you a tie for the section. So without jumping to this Friday, how cool was last Friday, knowing that you're at least going to get a piece of it?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have a chance to play for section championship, I mean, our kids were excited. We were obviously excited and ready to go for it, and certainly lived up to what people would have hoped for, and turned out to be a great game. And like we talked after the game, you're happy to have a piece of it, and our kids knew if they would win that, you're at least co-section champs. But our focus now is trying to earn it outright, and I don't think there's very often that Mannheim Central is rooting for Cocalico in league games, but I'm sure they were last week, and now they've got their chance to get a shot. So we know that they're going to come with their best on Friday, and we got to make sure we flush this one and we're ready to go.
Tell the people what Central Week is like. Is your belly churning the whole week? Are there gigantic butterflies? I mean, it's got to be cool to play in a game like that because it's such a neat rivalry. What's it like as a high school playing football guy to get to be in a rivalry game like that every year?
Yeah, I mean, this week for practice, it's definitely going to be tuned up, and it eventually, probably by Wednesday or Thursday, you're going to be already excited for the game, anxious, a little nervous maybe. So, I mean, we're already thinking about just playing the game. So we're going to come out here this week for practice, and just it's going to be a good week.
They're kind of a finesse, multi-purpose kind of a team. They can score in 5 plays. They can hog it. You guys hog it. You're going to go veer and try to get 15-play drives. Just, talk X's and O's. Can't turn it over, obviously. Got to finish drives. Take it from there. Just give me some keys for Friday.
Biggest key is it's going to be a physical fight. So the most physical, dominant team will come out with that win. Mannheim Central, it's obviously, I mean, they can pass the ball real well, they can run the ball real well, but I think that our team can run the ball real well, and, worst comes to worst, if we have to pass it, I'm very confident that we could do that, and it's going to be either a very high-scoring game, it's going to be a very low-scoring game, it's just going to be the most physical team from the get-go will come out with the win.
I think every time we play Mannheim, it comes down to who's the more disciplined and who's the more physical team. I think they have to be disciplined to stop our option, and we have to be disciplined with some of the zone read, RPO stuff that they do. On the defensive end, so much of it is doing being aligned properly and doing your assignment. But both sides of the ball, I think the biggest thing is the physicality. I mean, they're a very physical team, and they'll run their powers and things like that. And Novak's very good running the ball as well. They have a boatload of running backs who can tote the rock and do a nice job for them. big line that's been opening holes for them too. So again, I think challenge our kids to make sure they're ready to play the most physical game of the year so far on Friday night.
All right, welcome back from Denver. All right, guys, let's get into it. Break down the Week 10 games. We've got 12 of them on the docket, and since we're out of Cocalico, let's start there in Section 2. The Eagles, 4-0 in the league, 6-3 overall, going to Manheim Central, 3-1 in the league, 8-1 overall. And not only is a Section 2 crown kind of on the line, yeah, Cocalico is clinched, can win it outright with a win, and Manheim Central can make it interesting. We also have the district power ratings I want to mention. District 3 5A, where Manheim Central is. They're currently at number 3 line. The top 14 teams make it in there. So Barron's at number 3, District 3 4A, which is where Cocalico sits. The top 10 teams make it in Class 4A, and Cocalico sits at number 4. So this is a matchup of 2 pretty good teams, and we'll be playing beyond this Friday as well. So what do we make of this one?
I think it's so interesting that we did not see an obvious power structure in our league at the beginning of the year, and a lot of things that have been a little different about this year in terms of the tradition. And at the end of the year, we come down to Manheim Central against Cocalico and Wilson against Township, but anyway, this was I found this to be a really tough call. I suspect that I have underrated Cocalico, but I think partly because I haven't seen them, and partly because they didn't start as well as they finished. So I find this to be a really tough call. I like Central a little bit because they're home, and because I think they might have the best run defense in our league, and obviously stopping the run is the primary challenge against the Eagles. But I do not feel strongly about it.
Central, number 2 defense in the league, 214 yards a game. Number 1 rushing defense in the league, 867 yards against. Conversely, Cocalico, 2,828 rushing yards, number 1 in the league. The stat that scares me most, Cocalico was second from the bottom in the league in total defense, and they've given up the most passing yards in the league. And now they got to go to Manheim on the turf, where the Barons can empty the backfield and go 5 wides and spread it out. That scares me a little bit. Mentioned Barassa at the top, 1,725 yards, and he missed a game. Can you imagine? I mean, he'd probably be right around 2,000, and he could probably still get it here with a district game to go. He's had an amazing season. And this scenario has also crept up. Pay attention, if Central beats Cocalico and if Warwick beats CV, it's a 3-way tie for Section 2, because Warwick got a forfeit win over Solanco. They're not going to play that game. So Warwick's 3-1, Central's 3-1, Cocalico's 4-0. So we could have a 3-way tie at the end of the night on Friday. So pay attention to the scoreboard. Okay, I picked Cocalico to win the section back in August, and they're going to get a share. I have Manheim Central circled. I didn't have to pick outright solo champs in August, I don't think. They're going to get a piece of it, and they could certainly win the game. I think it's an awesome game. But I'm going to go Barons for pick purposes. Back-to-back shutouts, and their defense has just been really, really good here. And, Barassa went for 250 against them last year. I don't know if he's going to go for 330 this week, but if they can curtail him a little bit, I think Central, and I've said this a couple times this year, I think Central can kind of out-finesse them, and if they can get a 2-possession lead, I think the Barons could be safe. Great game, awesome game, can't wait to see this one. But I'll go Barons for the picks.
All right, and I'm also taking Manheim Central for all the reasons that you guys mentioned. Staying in Section 2, Warwick 3-1 in the league, 5-4 overall. Going to Conestoga Valley, 1-3 in the league, 3-6 overall. Warwick coming off a 27-21 loss to Cocalico at Cocalico in a heartbreaking fashion. CV coming off being blanked by Solanco, 37-0 loss last Friday. District 3 implications, Warwick. Top 14 teams making in District 3 5A. Warwick is currently at number 9. So one would think if they can take care of business here, they should be playing beyond this week. Jeff, this is your alma mater, and I bring that up to say the Buckskins last week, on top of only having 120 total yards of offense, they did also turn the ball over 4 times. But there's a silver lining in that they have seems to be a new quarterback, and he's a freshman, did pretty well last week.
Yeah, Garrett Daniels took a lot of snaps. Bucks are hurt, and I mentioned that last week. Nicely, the quarterback didn't play. Nick Tran, 700-yard rusher. He hasn't played in 2 weeks. Last 2 games for CV, both shutout losses. They've been outscored 100-0 in their last 2 games. Not good. Warwick might be one of the best 5-4 teams around. I still say that their record is kind of deceiving. They've lost some funky games. You know, the Hail Mary game to Penn Manor, the CD East game, which I still say they should have could have won. And last week losing late to Cocalico in the 4th quarter. So I have Warwick circled. I think they have kind of their eyes on the prize. They like to get that 9 seed, no worse than a 9. If they can jump to the 8, I don't know, will they get a home game? I forget how that works, but they got a lot riding here, and CV's flat struggling. So we'll go Warwick.
Yeah, it seems like CV is kind of flatlined. I think, as you said, mostly because of injuries. I just can't get over the fact that I know I've mentioned this before. But see, if Warwick doesn't win this game, they end up 5-5, and they beat LS and Mannheim Central.
How about that?
I mean, I just can't.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to win, and yeah, I like Warwick.
Hey, we should probably mention it, but if you look in 5A, if Central does not beat Cocalico, there's a chance they slip to 4, and they do not want to slip to 4. Because if they get to 4, they would get, if they win, they would get Mifflin in the semis.
Yeah,
They
that's
wouldn't
right.
get to a final to face Mifflin. And that's just on paper, you know, yada, yada. But keep an eye on that 3-4 line in 5A. And Warwick's safe. They're kind of just playing for a seed here with the Bucks.
And for those unfamiliar with Governor Mifflin, they're arguably the best team in the state across any classifications, in my opinion, and opinions of many others as well. Final game in I'm taking Warwick also, by the way, so we're Warriors across the board.
Right.
Final game in Section 2: Solanco 1-3 in the league, 3-6 overall, going to Elizabethtown 0-4 in the league, 3-6 overall. E-Town coming off a 42-0 loss to Mannheim Central. Solanco coming off a 37-0 win over Conestoga Valley. And something to watch, I just want to give a shout out to a specialist here. Solanco kicker last week, Trent McDowell, 27-yard field goal, his second longest of the season. His longest is 39 yards. And I bring that up to say if it comes down to kind of a crunch time thing, perhaps that makes a difference. Speaking of a team with another quarterback, we know that Brody Mellinger has been injured for Solanco. And last week, sophomore Bradley Weider, my apologies to Brad if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, got his first action under Friday Night Lights, going 3 for 6, 93 yards and 1 passing touchdown. So we know the Mules can run the ball, but it's always kind of been over the years, okay, when they get to the playoff time, that's not going to be the case this year because they're not going to be in the postseason, but can they throw the ball? And it seems like perhaps they found something here in this new sophomore gunslinger anyway. I'm taking Solanco for all those reasons. If they can run, and they can now kind of have somewhat of a passing game, and E-Town kind of seems to be flatlining as well.
Yeah, I like Solanco a little. I think both these teams are a little disappointed. I mean, they're both 3-6, and but Solanco, I just think it's a little more solid. Yeah, I like the Mules.
Yeah, Weider's touchdown pass last week in week 9 was Solanco's first touchdown pass this season.
Oh, good stat. All right.
That's a neat nugget. And they've only thrown 1 interception the whole year, but they don't throw it. I don't think they
throw
it. 30 passes the whole season, something like that. Solanco here, they kind of got their ground game back. The Coleman kid had 100 yards, and they just have so many guys that they just come at you. Castagna and Reimold and Coleman, and I mean it's one after another. Foreign, and they just have a lot of weapons. And E-Town's they're 0 in the section, so
They are.
They're still don't run the ball like I'm sure they would like to. Passing game's been really good. There could be some points in this one because E-Town likes to go up top, but I'll go Mules. I think they get a strong finish and win here, Solanco.
All right, sounds like we're all taking Solanco across the board. Section 3, Lancaster Catholic 1-3 in the league, 4-5 overall, going to Donegal 2-1 in the league, 6-2 overall. Lancaster Catholic coming off a 45-27 loss to Garden Spot. Donegal did not play last week because of COVID reasons, because of their opponent. And I did want to give a shout out here, Mason McClare for Lancaster Catholic. What a night he had last Friday, just from the return game alone.
Oh, yeah.
6 touches, 242 return yards, one of them going for a 99-yard kickoff return, which tied the longest such mark amongst LL players so far this season. So shout out to him. Perhaps that plays a factor this Friday. And Mike, if you have it in front of you, do you want to talk about the District 3 playoff implications?
Yeah, Donegal's 9th, Octorara is 10th. So Donegal, I think, and 10 make it in that class. So I think Donegal's in pretty good shape. Obviously, they're in better shape if they win than if they lose. If they win, they're in for sure. And Octorara, I mean, we'll talk about them because they have an interesting situation. And also, LS and Cocalico in that class are 3 and 4. The team that everybody wants to avoid, almost like you want to avoid Mifflin in 5A, is Bishop McDevitt, even though they're only the 2 seed.
And Lancaster Catholic, by the way, in District 3 3A, they're at number 6, and the top 8 teams make it there. So they're very much within shouting range. So basically, the winner here is solidifying themselves, perhaps, as far as playing beyond this Friday. With all that in mind, Donegal a week off, perhaps there's some rust there. I know there was a little bit for Warwick last Friday, but it wasn't so much for Solanco. So I don't know if a bye week plays a factor there, but it's worth mentioning. The Indians, we know that they love to run the ball. Lancaster Catholic has one of the worst run defenses in the league. For that reason, I'm going to take the Donegal Indians.
I agree. I'm with you on Donegal here. I think they're kind of eyes on the prize kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the second time this season Donegal's missed a game. Remember, the Garden Spot game in week 6 was bagged.
They picked up an opponent, right? That week?
No, they didn't play.
No? All right.
Yeah, and I thought they got it back because they had beat Ephrata the week before and kind of figured it out, and we're kind of doing Donegal things again. So I like them here. Catholic has not stopped the run a whole lot, and the Indians like to run a lot. So I'll go Donegal. And to make the postseason. First time since 2014 for Donegal to go to the playoffs. So good for those guys. And Catholic's got a chance at number 6, even with a loss, because the teams behind them, Northern Lebanon's 8 and Enville Cleona's 9. And and
that really situation's really interesting. Really,
we'll get to that in a minute with Octorara.
Weirdly so, yeah.
Yeah, but it's AAA is really interesting here. That's going down to Friday night at 10 o'clock.
And for what it's worth, the one time I saw Catholic this year was in a loss at Columbia, and they still played fairly well and could have pulled that out. So they have some nice pieces. It's just a matter of putting it together. Yeah. All right. So we're taking Donegal. Staying in Section 3, Ephrata 2-2 in the league, 5-4 overall, going to Garden Spot 2-1 in the league, 3-5 overall. I'm just realizing I do not have last week's results for either of these teams. So my apologies there. But this game was probably the coin flip game of the week for me, just in terms of trying to figure out who to pick. I initially circled the Mountaineers, and that's what's going to be in the paper this Friday, and then doing a bit more research Wednesday morning. I'm kind of like leaning towards Garden Spot now. The main difference being for me, last week the Spartans rushed 42 times for 263 yards, and they're going to be facing an Ephrata defense that has allowed 1,796 rushing yards, which is third most among LL teams so far this season. So if they can, hopefully the Mountaineers kind of shore up the run game a little bit, put up some points on the board. I know they're coming off a tough loss here, but I have Ephrata circled, but I don't feel great about it. How about you guys?
I would agree. I like Ephrata, but I don't feel great about it. Ephrata lost to LS last week, but that almost doesn't count because of the way they're rolling. And the Spot beat Lancaster Catholic 45-27. So anyway, this is a tough call. Garden Spot might be a little more balanced, but I think Ephrata is a little bit more athletic, and of course they have the great running back. Tough call. Garden Spot's at home, but Ephrata is 5-4, and they've made a lot of progress, and this is kind of like close the deal on a winning season, and I like Ephrata a little.
Ephrata will not make districts. And we talked about this last week. They were looking to go for the first time since 1987. Wow.
It's the year I was born.
Yeah, and that was my start of my senior year in high school. And I remember Effort being pretty good when I was in high school.
Yeah, there were times. There've been times. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have Garden Spot circled. I love the way they're going. Very balanced. This Kai Harding kid has come in and played great. And Tristan Sadowski's playing like super back, slot running back, wide out. And he had an awesome game last week against Catholic, catching passes and running the ball, threw a couple of passes. So he's like an X Factor kid. Weidman's due. I have this in the preview capsules this week. The last two games, Weidman's been held to 74 total rushing yards in the last two games. So he's kind of due to break out here. Keep an eye on that. But I like Garden Spot at home. They have an awesome kicker in Walker Martin. And I like them up front. And I just like the way that Harding and Sadowski are kind of jiving. And this Derek Lambert kid's had a great year all over the place, catching the ball, picking off passes. So I'll ride Spot here another week. Sparty Nation, circled.
All right, final game in Section 3. Lebanon 0-4 in the league, 0-9 overall, going to Lampeter Strasburg, 4-0 in the league, 8-1 overall. Last week, the Pioneers beat up on Ephrata, 63-7. Meanwhile, Lebanon did not play last week, so they have 2 weeks rest coming into this. Pioneers come in having won 8 games in a row, which is the longest current winning streak among LL teams, has already clinched a share of the Section 3 crown, can win it outright this Friday. And, oh, by the way, District 3 4A playoff implications, top 14 teams make it in there. LS currently sitting at number 3. I have LS circled, and you guys can probably tell me why.
Because they're the better team by a wide margin. That's why Lebanon struggling to have enough bodies to practice, much less play. And LS is rolling like crazy. So, yeah, LS.
2 quick LS factoids. They dipped in the district rankings, which I have no idea how this happened. They were number 1 last week, and they beat 5A Ephrata, which was at the time in at 14, and they slipped from 1 to 3, and Berks Catholic and Bishop McDevitt both beat teams with losing records. And I have no idea how that happened.
I'm surprised we haven't gotten angry emails from LS parents about that yet.
How do you go from 1 to 3 after beating a ranked 5A team, and McDevitt and Berks both beat sub 500 teams? I have no idea. So Berks Catholic's back up at number 1, and McDevitt also jumped them up to number 2. LS, number 1 defense in the league, 196 yards a game, 3 shutouts. Lebanon is struggling, as Mike said. They're minus a lot of bodies, and they're last in the league in a lot of categories. Roll Pios.
All right. Speaking of things that roll, let's talk about the Columbia Crimson Tide. Currently 4-0 in the league, 7-1 overall. Going to be at home this Friday, which should probably be senior night, hosting Pequea Valley, 0-4 in the league, 1-7 overall. Columbia coming off a 42-35 win over Elko. Pequea Valley coming off a 42-7 loss to Northern Lebanon. District 3 2A playoff implications. The top 4 teams make it in there. Columbia is currently at number 2. I do want to give a shout out to quarterback Robert Footman for Columbia in the sense as far as college offers go. He first picked up one from Albright, recently picked up one from Alvernia. So he's finally starting to get some notice, some pub at the next level. So good on him because he's certainly capable of playing there. I have Columbia circled, and looks like they're going to be on track to make the playoffs for the first time since 2012. Mike, tell us more about the Crimson Tide. What do you like about them this Friday?
Well, if Robert Footman can't play Division 3, which is Albright and Alvernia, then I'm deeply confused because that guy is. I understand his size is somewhat limiting and that kind of thing. But anyway, he can handle that. This is, I think Columbia can afford a loss and still make districts, but they're not going to lose this one in this spot at home. It's the Tide here.
Footman's the MVP of the league.
I would agree with that.
There's no such award. I mean, the coaches are going to have their all-stars. And he should be the offensive back of the year and the outstanding back of the year in Section 4. And I know some other kids there have been really good, but Footman's been phenomenal. He's the MVP of the league, in my humble opinion.
I would agree.
Yeah, he wills them to win every week. He's amazing. Just an unbelievable player. That bracket's set, by the way. I think all 4 of them could lose, and it'll be York Catholic against Susquehanna, and Columbia's going to play Upper Dauphin. That's going to be the bracket. I already got an email from the Upper Dauphin people who are going to do the game on the radio, or they're looking for stats. So that's going to be the bracket. That's going to be the bracket. Tide rolls here, and they get the outright title, and they already clinched their first section title since 2002. So they've been really good, and they'll finish here with a flourish and look to the postseason.
One thing I'm not sure we've mentioned about Footman is he plays defense. just FYI, if we're talking about value, he also plays defense.
Yeah, he can outside backer, strong safety type, runs downhill, can make play. I don't know how much they use him there, but I know they have used him.
He doesn't play every snap, and but when you have a tiny roster and you have injuries, I mean, he does play defense anyway.
And he could probably return kicks and punts. They don't need him to, but they
have a lot of guys that can run. I mean, they have good skill kids, but he could do that. You're right. He's a good runner.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to this. 2 of their best wide receivers that he uses a ton, Poindexter and Diaz Ellis, are 9th graders.
Yeah.
So if they have a quarterback in the pipeline who's ready to go, they should, and a couple of big dudes up front, because
that's a big if. Though.
Have a lot of
that's
them.
A big if they have another guy in there that can do a fraction of what Footman can do.
Yeah, I don't want to get to 2022 just yet, but 2021 has certainly been entertaining for Columbia, and they're not showing any signs of slowing down, so they're going places.
All right, we're taking Columbia across the board. Staying in Section 4, Octorara 3-1 in the league, 7-2 overall. Going to Northern Lebanon 1-3 in the league, 4-5 overall. Both coming off big time wins. Octorara 53-7 over Anvil. Northern Lebanon 42-7 over Pequea Valley. District playoff implications: top 8 teams make it in District 3 Class 3A. Northern Lebanon currently sits at number 8. District 3 4A, top 14 teams make it in there. Top 6 are off, by the way. Octorara is currently sitting at number 10. And this is a stat that Jeff can answer here for me. I threw this at him yesterday because I was just going through the history of District 3 playoffs and team chronologies and all that, because Octorara seems poised to make the District 3 playoffs.
Yep.
And they're not listed among District 3 football team chronologies yet. Why is that?
Well, because when they joined the LL League in 2018, all of their programs were in District 1. They were in the Chestmont League. They played in the District 1 playoffs and everything. In the history of Octorara football, the Braves have been to districts once in District 1. That was in 2014, 4A, and they lost in the first round. So if they get in, and they should, a win, and they're definitely in. This would be their first District 3 trip. So 10 teams get in 4A, and they're number 10. So a win, and they're good. And they're playing great. The stat of the week last week, Octorara beat Anvil. Octorara rushed for 504 yards, 634 total yards against the Dutchman. So those were season highs across the LL this year. So their offense is scorching. Weston Stoltzfus has still not thrown a pick. Knock on wood, my man. And Mike Trainer rushed for 220 yards and a couple of touchdowns last week. So they're playing great. Win here, and they're in safely. I think the story here, and Mike, you can break this down. Northern Lebanon, you can try.
I'll try.
Northern Lebanon is eighth and in, and Anvil Cleona is right behind them at number 9, and they both have tricky games. Anvil has Elko. So if they both, we're not sure what's going to happen if Northern Lebanon and Anvil both lose or one of them wins. I don't know who's going to get that number 8 in AAA. No clue. I don't understand any of that math.
The 4 through 8 seeds all have 4 wins in AAA.
Wow.
And then the 9th seed, which is Anvil Cleona, is 3-5 because they lost a game. And then there's a pretty big drop off as I'm looking at all the math here from 9 to 10, which is Schuylkill Valley, which is 2 and 7.
Yeah.
So I just can't. I don't know how anybody could do that math sort of off the top of their head and anticipate. But Anvil, Anvil and Northern Lebanon and Lancaster Catholic are all in that group that I was telling you about with 3 or 4 wins. And I'm not sure that Northern Lebanon has to win to make districts. Incredibly. And that would be a story if Northern Lebanon gets from where they've been the last couple of years to making the postseason in the first year with a rookie coach and all that stuff. But anyway, that's
good luck.
that's where we are. I'm not sure I added much insight to that, but
no. Schuylkill Valley, even if they win, and I do not know who they play off the top of my head, they're not going to. Even if they win, they're not going to.
I think they're out. They're out. But where do those the next 5 there, the number 4 through 9?
Yep.
I can't do that math. I don't know how that works out.
And I think Catholic's going to be safe even with a loss because Donegal's good. They're going to get in and they're going to get all of Donegal's power points. So I think Catholic's safe even if they dip to 8.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Northern Lebanon and Anvil, one of them's going to get no worse than 8 and get in. But I don't know how it's going to play out. By the way, I'm picking Octorara. Braves are number 1 offense in the league, 441 yards a game. They're scorching. I mean, they've been really good. So
it's worth pointing out here, as good as Octorara offense was last week, Northern Lebanon defense might have been similarly good, forcing 5 turnovers, including a safety and 2 defensive touchdowns, both coming from senior defensive end Mitchell Hetrick. But yeah, I like Octorara in this one.
Just point out, I like Octorara too, but let me just point out, number one, they have 2 losses. One is to Phoenixville, where they were missing some people, 36-33. I think if they play that game 10 times, Octorara probably wins 8 or 9 of them. And the other one was to Columbia in that insane 48-46 game that I witnessed. How close are they to going undefeated?
Really close.
Pretty close.
Really close. That Phoenixville game, I don't think it's going to hurt them in the end. I think they're going to.
No, I don't think it is either. But
that's, I mean,
they've really had a good year, coming off a good year.
Yeah, and they have a lot of skill kids back. They do lose Weston Stoltz.
I don't understand how, if you're geographically in District 1, you get to play in District 3, but playoffs. But that's another thing.
Half of the Octorara students do live in Lancaster County, so that kind of counts. Weston Stoltz's little brother is a quarterback, by the way. Chandler, I think his name is. So he's coming. So look out.
Look out.
Look out.
All right, final game in Section 4. Elko 2-2 in the league, 3-3. I'm sorry, Elko 2-2 in the league, 3-5 overall. Going to Anvil 2-2 in the league, 3-5 overall. So teams with similar records. Elko coming off a 42-35 loss to a good Columbia team. Anvil coming off a pounding 53-7 loss to Octorara, in which they were ripped for 600+ yards. District 3 playoff implications, Class 4A, which is where Elko's at. Top 14 teams make it in, and guess where Elko sits? At number 14. And then District 3 3A, which is where Anvil is. I know we keep talking about this. Top 8 teams make it in there. Anvil's at number 9. So both teams are in need of wins to keep their seasons alive. So this is essentially a playoff game, given what Elko's done this year, hanging tough with Octorara and Columbia. And I think we all like Luke Williams. If you're playing fantasy football, I would imagine you start him this Friday, considering he's going against an Anvil defense that gave up 500 rushing yards last week. And Luke went for 226 yards by himself last week with 3 touchdowns. So he might have another big night this Friday. All those reasons add up. I'm taking Elko, and I think we'll see them beyond this Friday.
Actually, I don't think we'll see them beyond this.
No? Am I wrong?
Only 10 teams make it in 4A.
Okay.
Yeah. Elko's out.
Yeah, they're out. The thing with Anvil is, if Anvil can compete on the line of scrimmage, they're a very good team and a fun team to watch. But they're so small up front. They're just physically small up front. This is a good spot for those Williams dudes for Elko that are just some nasties. This is a tough call. These teams have the same record. They've had similar seasons, I think, and they've done some good things, even though their record or not. I'm sure they're both disappointed in their records. I'm with John. I like Elko a little just because they're a little more stout and physical.
Yeah, similar schemes. Over under on pass attempts 8. Luke Williams had 45 carries last week against Columbia. Talk about playing keep away.
Yeah,
45. That might be an LL record. I don't remember a kid getting 40 carries in a game for a long time.
That's
back in the day. That's all they did was run the ball. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's rare. That in the last 20 years, I bet it's
Sure.
might be. Yeah.
Now, I don't see Elko's defensive stats, but I have not seen Jake Williams' name in a box since he came back and played in week 7. So I don't know if he's playing anymore. I know he played in that week 7 game, came back, rushed for 50 yards and a touchdown, but I have not seen his name since. So I hope he's okay. I hope he didn't get re-injured. I don't know if he's maybe just playing defense because, I mean, Luke's carrying the heck out of the ball. So Elko here, like Mike said, they'll be much stronger up front. That's a very physical, beat you down, wear you down team.
And by the way, Luke is a better linebacker than he is a running back.
Yeah, he's an animal. He's so good.
One of the best two-way players in our league, no question.
Doubt. He'll be right up there for back of the year. He's got Footman ahead of him, but he could be linebacker of the year in Section 4. He's just been terrific.
And we'll play college football too.
No doubt. Elko would love a couple of these games back, and they'll play another game. I don't know who they're going to play because they're supposed to play Susquehanna from a COVID makeup, but Susquehanna is going to make districts. So I don't know if Elko's going to try to find somebody to get a 10th game. I hope they do. I'd like to see them play 10. I'm sure they'll like a couple of these back.
Williams wants to play again.
You know that. Raiders here. Go Elko. Yeah.
All right, let's go up to Class 6A and what is Section 1. We got 3 more games left to chat about this week here. McCaskey 0-4 in the league, 2-7 overall. Going to Cedar Crest, 2-2 in the league, 4-4 overall. The Falcons have kind of seemed to figure things out here on offense, coming off a 40-15 win over my alma mater, Penn Manor. Meanwhile, McCaskey coming off a 62-21 drubbing loss to Manheim Township. Mike, talk to us about your alma mater, Falcons, going through the air.
Big numbers again for the quarterback, and I was impressed with what they did last week. I didn't see. I picked Penn Manor to win that game, as you guys may recall, and I think you guys picked Penn Manor. I
picked Cedar Crest.
Okay. I think I mean, you guys picked Cedar Crest. That's what I meant to say. Anyway, you know, they will look back ruefully at losing to E-Town. You know, I think that's one that really cost them a chance to have a really nice season here. And I like them here against McCaskey. I think that's especially at home, winning season if they get the W.
Yeah, you mentioned QB. Jay Uber's been really good. Junior, so he'll be back, and he'll be one of the better QBs coming back next year.
Yeah, and they have 2 junior receivers who are good players, and they have a sophomore who's a pretty good running back. So they have some, you know, they're in position a little bit.
Uber went for 300 plus last week, 4 touchdowns. Nate Groff, 5 catches, 205, 3 touchdowns. So they can really beat you up top.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. I have Crest circled. McCaskey definitely made some strides this year, 2 wins, which is great. They just can't seem to get over the hump. I'm trying not to drop a bunch of cliches on you, but you know, it just seems to be the kind of same thing with him every week. 10 penalties for 105 yards, 3 turnovers. They got to clean that up. Section 1, big boy LL League football is way more fun when McCaskey's good and challenging. And it's been several years now. 2014, I think, since they've had a district season. It's been a while. So McCaskey's due, and I hope they find what they're looking for. But Crest here. And by the way, Crest will not – I've been told that they tried to get a game for next week because the Mifflin game was bagged. And I was told that they're probably not going to play. So it looks like the Falcons will play 9 and done for them. So They can play Friday and then report to wrestling and or basketball practice next week. Crest. The pick is Crest.
I believe we have 3 weeks until the
It
first
won't be
start
long.
of practices. Yeah,
Won't
from
be long.
Friday. Anyway, I'm taking Falcons to soar in this one as well. Staying in Section 1, Hempfield 2-2 in the league, 5-4 overall. Going to Penn Manor 1-3 in the league, 5-4 overall. Hempfield coming off a narrow loss to Wilson, 28-21. Penn Manor coming off that loss to Crest, as we just said, 40-15. Comets, since their 4-1 start, have lost 3 of their last 4. And Jeff, you wrote about this a little bit. The Knights had that weird loss to Cedar Crest. And then they come back and beat Township, and then they come back from that, and they tied in the fourth quarter with Wilson, just kind of fall short. You covered Hempfield last week. What do we make of the Black Knights?
Oh, their defense is good. Wilson just had a little too much last week. Hoffman and Jones both rushed for over 100. And I finally got to see Cam Jones. and on one of the kick returns, Music City Miracle. You remember that play?
Yeah.
Wilson pulled that off. They had their backup quarterback catch the kick return, and he threw it across the field to Cam Jones, and he goes like 50 yards and gave him like great field position. So
That's called, we got to find a way to get the ball in this dude's hands. Right?
Exactly, because Hempfield up to that point had done a pretty good job punting away from him. That might have been his only return that he really got his hands on the ball. So Hempfield, big spot for them here, and I was over there for the feature this week, so I kind of got a read on them, and I saw them Friday. They're number 9 in 6A, so they're out. Number 8 is Carlisle. Carlisle plays CD East, which is 8-1 or something, 7-2, and like number 3 or number 4. So tricky game for Carlisle. And the thinking here is just kind of looking at those numbers that I know nothing about. If Hempfield wins and if Carlisle loses, it looks like Hempfield will jump them. So this
I think that's right, Ryan. So I don't know. We don't know for sure, but you look here at, for example, the opponent's winning percentage thing. That's a big edge for Hempfield if you look at those numbers.
Yeah.
And you throw a loss for Carlisle in there, and it's not a safe assumption, but CDE seems to be surging again.
Yeah.
They beat Central Dauphin the other night. They seem to be rolling again. So that's a tough spot for Carlisle and a great opportunity. It looks like for Hempfield. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ron.
No, that's okay. I'm just kind of rambling. Go ahead, John.
It's probably worth mentioning the team above Carlisle is Wilson at number 7. They're 6-3, and they have a tough matchup that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But if Wilson loses, that's 4 losses for them, and that would be 4 losses for Hempfield if they're able to win this Friday. So there's a lot on the line, is what we're saying. By the way, this matchup, the Route 462 trophy is on the line. For those unfamiliar, I know Jeff was this time a year ago. I keep picking on him about it because I grew up in Penn Manor School District. Route 462 is also known as Columbia Avenue, Lincoln Highway. It's been around for several decades now, but this trophy is relatively new. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this will be the second year, and Hempfield won the first one last year, 40-7. Again with the records, and Mike, I love how you always go back to the where we're at in the season. The ebb and flow of the season. Hempfield's way better than 5-4. I mean, they've had a great year. They really have. They've been really good, and they gave Wilson all it could handle. Had a great comeback in the fourth quarter to tie it the other night, and then Wilson, like I said, Hoffman and Jaden Jones, just too much on the ground in the end. Wilson scored with 30 seconds left to win it, but Hempfield took them to the wire. Let me drop the feature here quick. David Pale. He's Samoan. What an interesting kid he is for Hempfield. Big dude, left tackle, so he has Cam Harbaugh's back, which is large, and defensive end, and he can blow stuff up. His cousin plays in the NFL. And he grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, and ended up in Landisville. Interesting kid.
Known to happen.
Yeah, obviously. So he's kind of taking the long road to the Knights' starting lineup.
Yeah,
what a neat kid.
Like
That's the feature this week. So look for that on Thursday. Really neat kid. Pick purposes, I'll go Hempfield here. Penn Manor's been good. They'll have their first non-losing season in 7 years. But just Penn Manor should be focused here, knowing if they win and get a little help that they should be in. So I'll go Knights.
Hempfield should be focused. Yeah.
Hempfield should be very focused, I would think. I would hope.
I agree. I expect Penn Manor to put up a fight here. I don't think this is a blowout at all. I think Penn Manor is kind of, we made a lot of progress this year. We want to kind of ratify that a little bit, and they're at home. Yeah. But I think they're going to have a hard time scoring against that defense.
Maybe.
And obviously Hempfield has a ton to play for. That doesn't always translate as directly as we think it ought to or think it will, but I think this is a close game. I do, but I like Hempfield a little.
A couple things I want to throw in here in this matchup, and I know we'll talk about this if Hempfield gets in at the number 8. Central York's currently sitting at number 1, and if you remember back in week 3, Hempfield played Central York and lost 35-21, so it was a 2-score game. Looking at Central York's schedule right now, they're 9-0, but of those 9 wins, 3 of them were by 2 scores or less. So I bring all that up to say the Panthers are not unbeatable. And I'm sure Hempfield would love another crack at them, but we can talk about that a bit more next Friday. The other point I wanted to mention, I didn't realize this, but Hempfield quarterback Cam Harbaugh a few weeks back picked up an offer from Valparaiso. So he's starting to get some looks. Yeah, so that's a smaller, FCS, FBS school?
Yeah, FCS. Butler's in that conference, and they offered. So he's an FCS kid. He has the skills to play at that level.
Yeah,
that's schools that we know more about in basketball than football.
Those are hoop schools. Right. Yeah, they are.
With all that in mind, I'm also taking Hempfield. All right, final game of the week to break down here. Section 1, big time matchup. Manheim Township 3-1 in the league, 6-3 overall, going to Berks County facing the Bulldogs in Wilson. 4-0 in the league, 6-3 overall. Wilson coming off that 28-21 win over Hempfield. Township coming off a 62-21 win over McCaskey. The Bulldogs have clinched at least a share of the Section 1 crown, can win it outright with a win this Friday. District 3 playoff implications. Again, top 8 teams make it in there. Manheim Township is currently at number 5, is that correct? Yeah, and 5. Wilson is currently at number 7. Yeah, those are right. I'm just double checking. It just seems a little high for Township to me, but I guess I'm wrong on that. So Jeff, you covered Wilson last week. Tell us about the Bulldogs, what they bring to the table.
Yeah, when we got to Coach Dumbs after the game, one of the questions was, hey, you've won 4 in a row. You clinched the tie. Here you are. What's the difference? He said, we're healthy. We have our whole team. We have our O-line. We have our kids, and they played like it. Jaden Jones has really found it in running the ball, and Brad Hoffman is a really good dual threat kid. 2 weeks ago, he rushed for 195. Last week, it was 140, and he would just spin and lower his shoulder, and boom, just get him out of traffic.
Big and fast.
Yes, he is.
Really athletic.
Yep, hasn't had the greatest passing season, but they don't need to go up top much because of Jones, and the Hoffman kid can really run. I picked Manheim Township to win Section 1 back in August, and I've been, throwing out these. Well, I picked them to win the section picks.
Yeah, Ryan, you're way too dependent on that. I mean, that's centuries ago.
Nobody remembers that.
Yeah, as far as you know. I have Wilson circled. I like the way they're going.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going a different direction.
No, I looked at this one for an hour and a half, and they're just very edgy and rugged right now, and just their running game is really good. Now they got to stop Ivy. Now, Ivy sophomore year 2 years ago is when Township won over at Wilson, and Ivy had 8 catches for 292 and 2 touchdowns. Single game LL record, 292 receiving yards. They have to stop him up top. Hayden Johnson's been awesome. He'll go over 2,000 passing yards this week. Gut says Wilson. I'll go with the gut. Bulldogs.
I'm not going with the gut. I'm going with the Bulldogs. This is a tough call. I'm telling you, other than with the possible exception of Central York, this could be the district final in 6A. There's no team in 6A that I would clearly say is a favorite, with the possible exception of Central York, over these two teams. Township, we're going to be talking about them an awful lot next year. Very young.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Wilson is a little bit more about right now and the way they've been rolling for the last month or so since they got healthy and they're at home. I like Wilson a little. This is a high level high school football game.
This is a big boy game.
Yep.
Big boy 6A football game here Friday.
Well, both of you guys took Wilson. I'm taking Township. I've seen both of these teams twice this year. But as you talk about this, I'm just thinking, just because having covered the Blue Streaks over the last half dozen years and thinking those seasons of they're kind of on the cusp and then they lose these close games and they learn from them. Then they come back and maybe 2022, this will kind of be the case for them. But if you had asked me a few weeks ago, I know a lot's changed in a few weeks. I just think Wilson, they bring the run game to the table. Not much to like for me in the passing game anyway.
That's
and
true.
If the Blue Streaks are able to kind of keep a lid on that run game and bend but don't break type of defense, like they did with Hempfield, perhaps they come out with a win this one. Yeah, they lost to Hempfield. They give up a ton of rushing yards, but as we just mentioned, Cam Harbaugh, the kid can also throw the ball. I'm not sure if Wilson, if they're shut down in the run game, if they can kind of go through the air a little bit. So that's kind of the deciding factor for me. So I have Township circled, but again, it's on the road. It's at Wilson. I don't feel great about the pick. So it's definitely going to be a good game.
I think for Wilson to play for a long time, to have a long postseason, they're going to have to throw it a little better than they have.
Yeah.
I do think that. I think they're limited in terms of being a great Wilson team by their standards in that respect. So I think that's a good point, John. But Grimes, bring it.
Wilson won last year, 31-28.
Yikes.
And secondly, Manheim Township, don't kick the ball to Cam Jones. You're welcome.
Cam Jones and Anthony Ivy on both sides.
I'm sure Mark Evans is watching this and furiously taking notes right now.
He is. Yeah, as he's diagramming the game plan.
Don't give up the Music City Miracle, right?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. That should be a great game. Should be
vocabulary of the week. First word, juiciest, and Jeff talking about the rivalry between Cocalico and Manheim Central, and then edgy and rugged, just now talking about Wilson. So that's the vocab for me, for you guys this week. This point of the show, we're asked, where are you at? Where are you going this Friday?
I'm going to Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Duh.
I will be
happening there this weekend.
Ohio on Friday night.
So you're going to watch Penn State get drubbed by Ohio State?
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. Manheim bound. Cocalico at Central. That's wow. Bet like juicy, John. Juiciest rivalry in the county. It's
freaking juicy, my friend.
And it started to get juicy in 2016, and then Cocalico beat them finally after like so many years. And Central's 4-2 in the last 6, including the district final in 2018 when the Barons went to the state final. This is just always such an awesome game. This should be great. And keep an eye on that scenario. I'm telling you, if Central wins and Warwick wins, you're looking at a 3-way tie, and that could happen. So stay tuned.
You're making me I'm like, where do I know that song Juicy from? But it reminds me of my childhood of listening to Notorious B.I.G. Anyway, I'm actually not covering a game this Friday because I got to get up super early the next morning to be at Big Spring by like 9:45, 10 a.m. for the start. First of 6 races in the District 3 Cross Country Championship. So that's what I'll be doing Saturday. So trying to get to bed at a relatively decent time Friday night, and hopefully the youngsters don't get me up in the middle of the night. Anyways, all right, for Jeff Reinhardt, Mike Gross, we thank you guys for watching. This has been week 10 of the LL Football Roundtable, sponsored by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. Final week of the regular season. We'll catch you guys in the playoffs next week. Thanks for watching.